Hello friend of Camille Azaif. Today Camille Azaif will talk about a national food that is well known in Brazil. Before continuing, if you want to visit the beautiful places that are in Camille Azaif's videos, you can get in touch with a Camille Azaif. He will guide you to a food agency tourist who has a partnership. History of FEIJOADA transformed into a national dish. It all started from the time of slavery in Brazil for Africans in colonial times. At that time white people didn't eat black beans. When the slave's master or owner cooked the black beans, it was given to the slave to eat because the slave should not eat the same food as the owner. From that moment on, the slave began to understand that black beans are his food, and he began to use the beans as it was a black food, and then the slave began to practice cooking the beans until he produced a food called FEIJOADA, which is so popular today. FEIJOADA as we know it only appeared in the 19th century, becoming a sign of Brazilianness with the modernists. The FEIJOADA is one of the most well-known and popular typical dishes of Brazilian cuisine, basically composed of black beans, various parts of pork, sausage, flour and the accompaniment of vegetables. It is commonly seen as a culinary creation of the enslaved Africans who came to Brazil. But could this really be the history of FEIJOADA? Historians and culinary experts indicate that this type of dish, which mixes various types of meat, vegetables and greens, is ancient. It possibly dates back to the Mediterranean area at the time of the Roman Empire, according to Camara Cascudo. Similar dishes in Latin cuisine would be the cozido in Portugal, the cassoulet in France, a paella made from rice in Spain, and the cazuela and the bollito mixo in Italy. Before continuing, see on the screen you can see the contacts to speak to Camille Azaif for your visit to a tourist place here in the state of Amazonas in Brazil, but FEIJOADA has the specificities of Brazilian cuisine. Black beans originate from South America and were called by the Guaranis as camanda, camana or cumana. Cassava flour also has American origins, being adopted as a basic component of the diet by Africans and Europeans who came to Brazil. Fields of beans and cassava were planted in various locations, including domestic spaces, around homes, mainly belonging to the lower classes. According to Carlos Alberto Doria, the origin of FEIJOADA would be in fatty beans, the legume stew plus bacon and dried meat. FEIJOADA would be these fatty beans enriched to the extreme with sausages, vegetables, greens and pork. The inclusion of the last ingredient mentioned above led Camara Cascudo to question whether FEIJOADA was an invention of enslaved Africans, as a large part of Africans followed Islam. How could they have included pork in the dish, since the religion prohibits its consumption? The famous Brazilian folklorist indicates that FEIJOADA as we know it, composed of beans, meat, vegetables and legumes, would be a combination created only in the 19th century in restaurants frequented by Brazil's slave elite. Its diffusion would have taken place in hotels and guesthouses, mainly from Rio de Janeiro. However, the spread of the idea of FEIJOADA as a national dish would be a consequence of the actions of modernists to build a Brazilian national identity. According to Carlos Alberto Doria, feijoada would be one of the signs of Brazilianness, characterized by the theme of anthropophagy, of cultural swallowing that permeated the formation of the Brazilian nation. Mario de Andrade presented this perspective in his well-known book, Macunaíma, from 1924. During a party at the house of farmer Venceslau Pietro Pietra, in which the anti-hero participated. According to Doria, the scene would be an allegory of national cuisine and the different ethnicities that came into contact in Brazil. Vinicius de Moraes also talked about feijoada, in his poem, Feijoada e Minha Moda, portraying at the end the scene of difficult digestion of the dish. What more pleasure does a body ask for, after eating such a bean? Thank you very much for following this channel to build your knowledge. Camille Lazaif in company with CA Production.
Organization, CA Production.